Woo! Today is a big day, ladies and gents. Welcome to the Highly Optimized Podcast. Now, for some of you, this is a returning, and for others, it's your first time here. And as such, what you can expect each week is for me to interview someone who has truly created a life on their own terms. In these episodes, we'll dive into how their journeys led them onto a different path in the mainstream, what they've learned along the way, what practices they use to keep themselves balanced, and the overall hero's journey they've embarked upon to create the life they now live. And today's guest is a very special one, as he is a dear brother of mine and someone who is a big part of the last 5 years of my life. From first meeting him after entering the Enlifted coaching program back in January of 2020, to countless get-togethers, parties, epic adventures, and more, it's safe to say we've both been a big influence on one another. And in this inaugural episode back onto the show, we took a trip down memory lane and discussed how the last 5 years of us knowing one another has shifted both of our lives immeasurably. So sit back, get your curiosity caps on, strap in for a wild ride, and give me a hand in welcoming my man Adam Chin onto the show. Adam Chinny Chin Chin, my man, dude, I am so excited to have you back, not only for any episode, but the first episode back on the Highly Optimized Podcast. Now, as I said in the intro to all you guys tuning in, first of all, it's been a long journey of podcasting. It's been incredible. And I felt recently, as you guys heard in the last episode on this one, I'm in psychedelics for now anyway. I'll bring it back at some point. But, you know, I had been feeling really pulled into getting back to what I started, which was highly optimized. You know, I mean, psychedelics are a big part of my brand. But as anyone who's into holistic health, holism, any of these topics understands, psychedelics are really just where you get to see a lot of the stuff that you got to work on. And then the rest of the puzzle is where you actually get to work on it. And so I wanted to have you back on for a great dialogue, Adam, because not only are you one of my closest friends in the entire friggin' world, not only have we had epic adventures together, but you've got to witness my journey. I've got to witness you guys' journey getting lifted. For those that are listening, as I said in the intro also, Adam is one half of Enlifted. Him and Mark began Enlifted back in, what was it, 2018? Was it 2018?
2019, Enlifted officially launched.
Hell yeah, dude. Feels like yesterday, bro. I was group 4 in that program. It was the first coaching cert I ever took. Wow. Still the most powerful I've ever taken, dude. By leaps and bounds.
Well, thank you for saying that, Ryan. And it brought us you. I mean, it's worth starting this entire company just so you could be in my life.
Likewise, dude. Straight up. You know, it's like, you know, for you guys tuning in, you know, I've mentioned this before, but I don't think we mentioned this back on Word on the Galactic Street, which was the last episode Adam and I did together. You can go back. It was probably like 3 years ago we did it. I still remember where I was. I was at the studio with Shlomo doing that one. That was when I used to record through my phone, dude. So it's come a long way since then. And I don't know if we talked about the entire journey that both of us have gone on in the past, 5 years or whatever, but it's been crazy, man. And so I'd love, since it's been so long since you've been in the show, I'd love if you could share with the listeners a little bit about your own journey, how that led you to Enlifted, and then we'll take it from there.
Oh, wow. What a question, Ryan. Where do I start? Well, when I was a zygote in my dad's testes or my mom's uterus, however that works. How far do you want to go back? Okay, I'll start it here. Ryan. So my background, like many people, come into this world of personal development. They have, let's say, a challenging childhood or a challenging background, and they have things that they have to overcome. So for me, it was, let's just say my parents somehow got together and then I was born and my brother was born, and then they promptly separated because they should have never been together. What the hell were they thinking being together? So from different cultures, from different backgrounds. And, that had a big impact on me. And I grew up in a very topsy-turvy world, let's put it that way. And I had one part of me was, my Asian family over in Thailand. They're Thai Chinese, and then I had my family who were like, my mom's from like Appalachian stock, and I grew up in the South. So it's like we got some country ass folks over on one side. You're talking about whatever, and then we jug bands and moonshine, and then we got some. But my Chinese relatives were actually pretty well off. So I had some wealthy doctors. Yeah, they were like, I was like, what? I thought that was supposed to be third world over there. This is supposed to be first world. What's going on here? So it's very, very interesting. So so yeah, it was like figuring out the world, man. And then, I was trying to figure out who I was as a person and as a young person. And, I got really lucky, man. I got really fortunate as I was starting my journey. Right after I finished college, I was working at CompUSA. Some people who listen to this may know this store, this big box store that existed 20 years ago. Perhaps you bought video cards for your computer there or something like that and played Epic Ultima on your PCs or something. But I was working there after school and I was selling computers. And I was the Mac guy back when no one used Apple. It was just me and a bunch of dorks. And Rachel's right, and bigger and Crypto Ernie. And so I'm in the Mac section where I usually am, and this guy that I've met a couple of times comes in and says, "Hey man, by the way, all this cool Mac stuff. There's this guy in town, and he's building a studio, and he could really use someone like you, because if you know how to use all this stuff, like you said, you're in the video editing too, you know how to use Final Cut Pro." I'm like, yeah, it's a new program, and I kind of know how to use it. I dabble, in my free time. And he goes, awesome. Well, he needs someone, so come in and work for him, and I'll introduce you. And I go, yes. And it was scary to say yes, but I said yes. I don't know what, I wasn't exactly the most confident 22-year-old, but it was like, yes. And I said yes. And the next day, it was like 2 days later, I think I went over and met this guy. This guy ended up being my mentor. And that was 25 years ago. And I just saw, his name is Jeffrey Gittimer. And I just saw him a few days ago, actually, in Charlotte. He's been in my life for 25 years. And his background, what he was doing is building a studio to do early sales training and personal development training for big companies. So he would do, positive attitude and sales training for he was like a next tier down Tony Robbins, but not too far. He was doing well, but he would do it for Coca-Cola. He would do it for these big Caterpillar. I was in the room with him with people at, Fortune 50 CEOs, like the CTO at Caterpillar and the sales director at Caterpillar, Ford Motor Company. We would do these trainings and stuff for. But, so I was, 22, 23 years old, and I was around this guy, and he was just full of just positive growth mindset. What we didn't call it growth mindset then, but that's what it was. It was just, I can do. You're constantly seeing how he was able to take reality and not complain, not just sit there and bitch about shit. No, he would make things happen. And he got me into Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and all the old classic guys from the 1950s and 60s too. So I started learning about this, and I became a personal development junkie from that point forward. So flash forward, pardon me, until 2005, 2006. I leave the company, got a little money in my pocket, and I had this moment in my life. I was 27, and I go, okay, what do I do? Do I stay here and just do the same thing but on my own, or do I do something wild and different? And something was calling me to hey, Adam, go back to Thailand now and see your relatives and explore that culture, get to know that part of you, because you have the time, and you have the money, and this is your time to do this. And it was totally illogical, but I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. This is before iPhones, before social media really was on the scene. I just went, and I was going to spend 6 months. I ended up spending 12 years, something like 10 years, a long ass time. It was I was there, I got there, and I was like, shit, this is really interesting. I'm learning a lot about America, because it's different when you don't understand America until you live somewhere else, really. Yeah. I'm learning about, who I am and my weaknesses and my strengths. But most specifically, within a year or so of being in Thailand, about 2 years of being there, I ended up at this place called the Spa. Okay. So if you've had Mark on the show, and I believe you had, some people, if they remember that episode, the Spa is this very important place, because the Spa is in Koh Samui, Thailand. Now, at this moment we're recording this podcast, Koh Samui has become this famous place because of the show The White Lotus is on HBO, and it takes place in Koh Samui. So, but I was there in 2006, 2007, when it was still pretty sleepy. And dude, I ended up through some beautiful happenstance through my buddy Greg. He showed me about this place called the Spa Samui, and it's this proto hippie, dude, all this stuff that's big now. It's been big for 5-10 years. all that shit was happening there, like fasting and like just esoteric health shit, like doing weird, health protocols and like eating weird, supplements and fruits and working on yourself and cutting out like seed oils. And, this is stuff people were just talking about it and doing it there. And yoga was big, and I got there. I was going to stay again 2 weeks. I ended up staying there like 5 years basically. And I met Mark, my business partner, the co-founder of Enlifted, at the spa. We became friends first and business partners later. I met my wife there, Vanda. Of course, it was awesome. And I met a lot of amazing friends, man, people that I'm in touch with to this day. So again, this is a very long story to a short question, but what's my journey to get here? It's like, dude, I was a broken, confused kid. And through, again, my own curiosity and also the grace of God, I was able to find these mentors, these teachers, and build this base of growth and tools for personal development over the course of the past 25 years. And I'm so grateful for that, because I can't imagine who I would be if I was that same person who, started from just a regular normie place, man, where, life happens to you versus you make life what you want. So there you go, Ryan.
Dude, so amazing to traverse that journey with you, man. And, obviously, as you guys will know more and more, for any of you guys who used to listen to Highly Optimized back when I had the podcast running, it's really about the hero's journey we go on. And the reason why I'm so passionate around this podcast and the reason I wanted to get back there is that I meet so many people that are like, when I feel perfect, then I'll start. That's the whole idea, right? They may not use those exact terms, but they're like, oh, like, for instance, I had a client recently who was like, yeah, like I really wanted to start a podcast, but I have a lot of anxiety around it and I have some suicidal ideation still. And like, I don't feel like maybe because of those things, I'm not ready to start a podcast. And I was like, well, what if in a paradoxical way, you being honest and starting the podcast and saying, hey guys, I feel a lot of anxiety doing this podcast. I still have suicidal ideation sometimes, and I'm here still doing it. Do you think that could inspire other people out there that are also telling themselves a story that they can't do what they want to do because they have this anxiety thing? I always remember the last scene of 8 Mile where Eminem just owns. I know, I bring this up so often, dude. This is a recurring theme in our conversations for you listeners tuning in. But that scene, if you guys haven't watched that, go back and watch that scene, because the whole movie is Eminem trying to not be who he really is. He's a white guy from Detroit who everyone says has no place being in the rap game. And so he tries to hide who he really is, how he lives in a trailer park with his mom, how some of his best friends are not exactly the most cognitively intelligent. And he tries to hide all that. And because of that, any rap battle he does, someone can poke holes in his armor so easily. But the last scene is him being like, yep, I know I'm the white guy. Yep, I live in a trailer with my mom. Yep, my friend is dumb enough to shoot himself in the dick with his own gun. And because he does all that, he takes all the power away from anyone else and puts it all back in himself. So a big part of the hero's journey is starting before you think you're ready. Like when you were like working at that store and that guy came in and said, you should beat this other guy. Like you said, there was a part of me that was really scared, but I just said yes. And if you've read The Surrender Experiment, for anyone tuning in, that's a great book to read to get reps of like just how this works. That's exactly how I got to where I am too. I mean, Mark, who we're talking about here, I was pouring my heart out on Facebook in 2019, going through a Kundalini awakening, not knowing what the hell was happening. And I tagged Mark because I had heard him on a podcast back in 2017 on the Positive Head podcast. And I listened to a shit ton of episodes on that show. And there was just this one that I remember Rachel and I, we would meet up in the cultivation room at the dispensary. We'd figure out what episode we want to listen to. We'd hit play at the same time, and we'd go work on plants. And we'd come back together, you know, in the middle of the aisles and be like, oh my God, this one and that one. Well, Mark's blew our fucking mind. And I remember thinking, I want to work with this guy. But then, you know, life took over and I just, you know, forgot about it. So then a couple of years later, sharing this post on Facebook, because I didn't even have Instagram at that point. And I put in there how language creates your reality. And someone says, wow, that's cool. Where'd you hear that? So I'm just like, what's that guy's name? I look up the name. I'm like, and I tag Mark. Don't think anything of it. Move on with my day. Well, like an hour later, I get my first voice note ever, which for anyone who gets voice notes from me, you can either love or hate Mark for that lesson. But, but I get my first voice note. And it's Mark like, hey, man, I really like what you're saying. We should hop on a call. And then I was like, huh? Like, what? But I was like, okay. So I hopped on a call and he was like, hey, man, I got this coaching cert. I think you would be a really good coach. And in my head, I was like, soccer coach? Like, what is he talking about? And, but I just said yes. Just something in me told me to say yes. And the rest is history. So, again, like these very small decisions, if we look at them objectively, can catalyze insane amounts of growth. Just like you, I didn't have any, silver spoon bone in my mouth. Like I didn't have any extra resources that most people did. When I went through that Kundalini awakening, the fear of staying the same outweighed the fear of change. And that's when change took place. So I'm so grateful you shared that, man.
Ryan, were you 27 or 28 when that happened?
27.
Dude, that's a magical year for a lot of guys, especially men that I know. That's a very magical year. That's the year that I said, you know what, I have to go out and try something different and go to Thailand. It's so, dude, thank you for sharing that too, Ryan. And it's cool to see how me saying yes, even though I wasn't quote unquote ready, back in the year 2000, and then you saying yes to Mark, how those are interlinked by a bunch of people just saying yes. I mean, it really is it's just a lot of yes saying, as the great Bill Matthews, one of our Enlifted coaches, says, the best things in my life the best things in my life are a direct result of me saying yes and showing up. And I love that. I've written it down. I've got it somewhere around here, but it's such a beautiful thing. It's like, if you just say yes and show up, so many cool things can happen. It's like, because they're not going to happen if you say no and don't show up, They
don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing is like, hopefully me and Adam, for anyone listening, can share with you guys, neither of us felt ready. You probably won't either. But we followed something that made us feel a feeling of meaning, love, fun, whatever you want to call that. And that's why I say often, and people, I've had people think this is a joke, but it's truly obvious and truly serious for me. Follow your fun. Follow what gives you that feeling of an adventure, especially for men. I don't know about women, and I'm not going to try to imagine what women think. I think there's enough men that try to do that. But, I think that for men, one of the most important things in our life is adventure, not traveling, but adventure. And I think that's a term that a lot of men in today's world are suffering as they've forgotten about that.
That's a great distinction, man. The difference between traveling and adventure. Traveling, I think that there's something to that. I'm a big word guy. So to let the audience know, a big part of the Enlifted method, the program that we run, is based on language. And there are subtle and very powerful differences between words. And the words that you just mentioned, the difference between adventure and travel. Travel in some ways is a type of a numbing or distraction. It's like travel is, I'm going to pick up this can of beer because I want to distract myself from this. And adventure is like, I want to go do this psychedelic journey because I want to learn about myself. I don't want to numb it. I want to know what's going on. And that's a very different, it's a very subtle distinction, but it's the difference between worlds colliding. You can either continue numbing or you can open up something in yourself. So I think that's very important. And we could definitely pull on that thread some more. There's so many threads we can pull on, Ryan. I mean, that's one of the beauties of knowing you and seeing you go through all this stuff, dude, because, you and I both have grown in the times that we've known each other. And it's been 5 years or something like that when I showed up to the lake house and you were there and I was like, wait, I like this guy. This guy's like, it's like hanging out in high school with like the greatest friend of all time again. This is fucking rad, man.
Yeah. Dude, it was so funny I think we might have shared this back on Word of the Galactic Street, but it was so long ago, I'll share it again. For all the listeners, just picture this, all right? I joined Enlifted. It's right when the world decides to shut down and go through the pandemic bullshit too. And so I got a bunch of time on my hands. I joined Enlifted. I'm having a great experience in there. I then quit my job at the dispensary. And I'm kind of just left with like all this time, very similar to you. I had some money in my pocket and I was like, what do I go do? And so, I was researching stuff and I ended up taking, I think, level 2 as well, before I had met you guys the first time. And, there's so many things we would pull on just that. But eventually Mark hits me up one day, and for anyone who knows Mark, he's a man of few words, and it's the best. He hits me up and he's like, hey, some guys are coming up to the lake house. So you're coming. Let me know when you're flying in and I'll pick you up. Bye. And that's it. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm going to the lake house. So this is in August of 2020. I go to the lake house, and let's say how I want to say this real quick to make sure I don't intimidate myself. So basically, I get there, and because I was a new kid of the group, I didn't want to necessarily bring a lot of stuff with me, let's just say, because I didn't want I didn't know what the vibe was going to be. So I get there. I was used to music festivals and stuff, right, at that phase of my life. So I get there, and Mark's like, hey, did you bring psychedelics? I'm like, no. He's like, you didn't bring any? And he was just messing with me, but I was like, shit. So let's just say I found a way to,
as you do.
Yeah, as I do, to find them. And so the next day we did an LSD ceremony.
To be clear, I wasn't involved in that particular one.
Yeah. And it was so much fun, man. It was like, getting to meet all these people on Zoom screens and things like that. It was just, it was otherworldly. I got to hang out with so many people that I just knew as Zoom icons. And I got to also see just how real the life I was moving towards could be. Like working from a laptop, traveling anywhere in the world. At that point, no one else in my reality was doing that. And I was still living at home, trying to learn this new art form and, mix it in with cannabis or something. And so when I go down there the first time, it was nothing to be hanging out on the deck and Chris Marhefka or Jared Davis is like, oh, I got to go take a call. And they're gone for a little while and they come back out and people are like, how was your call? It's like, oh, it was great. And then they're, hanging out, rip some bags in the volcano. It's actually where I got reintroduced to the volcano as well, which is definitely interesting.
Wow, that's the origin story.
Yeah,
nice.
Dude, I had one sitting on my shelf for like 12 years in my closet. And when I went down there, they're all blowing bags. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And because I was using the Mighty and stuff, and I was like, they're putting tobacco in there. What the hell are they doing? And then right around the same time is when I started hanging out a lot with Eddie Madden. And he was like, dude, you gotta get into the tobacco. Check's really big on it. It's good for anti-parasite and things like that. And I was like, all right. And I had quit cigarettes a long time ago. So it was just interesting how many things just collided at this one get-together we went to. But I went home from that trip a changed man. I went right to the vineyard. I did combo a couple weeks after that as well for the first time. And that journey really catalyzed a journey of me saying yes. When I was there the first time, I met Chris Marhefka. And Chris Marhefka was like, hey, I'm hosting a men's retreat in a couple of weeks in Colorado. You want to come? I was like, yeah. I go there and I end up hanging out with Danny Rios till like 3 a.m. one night, talking about sales and marketing because I knew nothing about it. And he was like, dude, I'm going to go to Mexico after this for like 6 weeks. You want to come? I call Rachel. I'm like, you want to go to Mexico? She's like, yeah. So like literally I would get home for like a day or two, just like do laundry, repack, and just take off again. And it happened like that for like 3 years, straight up like 3 years. And in that time, I went to probably like 5 or 6 lake house get-togethers and many other get-togethers we went to too. So really, it's like interesting how both of our journeys, and this is what I found synonymous with every hero's journey, is just the ability and the courage and bravery to say yes, even when you have no idea where it's going to go. And even when those voices in your head are like, well, how is this going to work? It's like, I don't know, but I'm just going to say yes because it's what my heart wants.
Yes.
So big.
Yes. Yeah. And, to piggyback on that concept of the hero's journey, one of the things you learn when I took some creative writing classes when I was in college. And one of the things that you learn with, modern storytelling structure that's based all off Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, a lot of it's based on that, is that, we're involved in multiple story arcs in our life. That's when, different seasons, different chapters of our life, and they all have these cycles. And a lot of what they call the 3-act structure, you may have heard of that before, 3 acts,
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching, like, that's the reason trilogies are a thing. Like Star Wars, the original trilogy is there's a beginning, middle, and end. And if you look at those stories, that hero's journey is usually structured like this. It's what they call the first act is the thesis. Okay. Thesis meaning what is. This is who this person is. This is the world they live in. This is how they think. This is the people they interact with. Okay. And then all of a sudden someone comes along and starts to, put a little prod in that person's life. They start to like, oh, this is different. What's going on here? I'm not sure I want to listen to you. Why is this little voice in my head saying to do something different? Well, that's because this little voice, this catalyst, is, whether it be external or internal, is trying to nudge this hero out of the thesis stage and into the second act, the antithesis. Okay. So in a lot of ways, when you explain to me like, oh, you just went in this 3-year total burner where you were just gone doing wild shit, and you're like, okay, just saying yes and just showing up. That's the antithesis to where you were before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So thesis, antithesis. Now, what's the third act? The third act is what they call synthesis. So you take what was there before, the good stuff, and then you meld it with the new stuff, the stuff that was learned in the second act. And then you create this much more powerful alloy of a human being in the third act. And that's where you are. To me, when I look at you, I see you in the synthesis stage, right? It's a fun place to be in, right?
Dude, it's super fun. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the prodigal son. You know, that whole story of the prodigal son. I don't know if you've heard it before, but the idea that two sons are living at home with their dad, and one son's fine, just working on the farm, doing his thing. The other one's got this burning desire, though, to go out into the world. He's got everything he needs at home, but he's not okay with it. You know, he's like, no, I got to go out and adventure. And so he goes on this adventure, aka the antithesis, to his thesis, which was staying at home and just being a good boy. So he goes into the world, blows all his money, has some experiences, and then thinks, oh my goodness, like I got to put my tail between my legs and go back to my dad. And my dad's going to be mad at me, aka like, oh my goodness, like, is actually some of the stuff I did back then good? Like, oh my God, am I reversing back into what I was? Am I not even evolving? Very normal part of the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does the prodigal son find when he comes back? As he's getting closer to the house, his dad sees him and he's like, my son's home. He's like, kill a pig. We're having a pig roast tonight. And he's like, Dad, you're not mad? He's like, no, of course I'm not mad. You had to go out and do your thing, but I'm glad you're back. You know, and so like that journey is so synonymous with the 3-act play that you were just talking about. The other one I've heard that the 3-act play kind of dictates the movies is the pain, the pivot, the pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, you know, boy meets girl and loses girl, the pain. Boy goes through a transformation, right? The pivot. And then boy gets the girl for good, you know, which is like the pleasure on the other side. So it's interesting to see how these, you know, this hero journey from Joseph Campbell, the prodigal son, these, you know, ancient tales in a way have displayed out into nature, you know, because everything's a story.
They map out very, very. If you can get some perspective from it, and I've gotten enough perspective from my most recent 3-act structure that I can see it. I can see it pretty clearly, and I see how these story beats map onto my own life. And one of the key points to the second act, the antithesis, is towards the end of the second act, is this thing they call the dark night of the soul. Because, you know, and most of us go through this. Like you go and you do all this stuff, and then you say, "What the fuck did I do all that for?" Mm-hmm. I've wasted it all. I could have, you know, I should have, could have done it this and whatever. You know, you start second guessing yourself. You start, you know, seeing all the mistakes that you made. You know, was this even worth it? That's perfectly natural. Mm-hmm. Because that's how you launch into that synthesis moment, because that's when you build yourself up. That's that last pull. And then you go and confront the thing that you must confront, and you confront it in that synthesis, build out of your character. And, you know, that's really cool to see. I mean, I'm sure, did you have something like that happen to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my, okay, here we go. I got to hear this.
Well, dude, first I want to ask you, do you think someone like Joseph Campbell would have described that stage as becoming built Ford tough?
Bro, you got it. Yeah, I think originally in his first draft, he was like, okay, I'm going to call this built Ford tough. It's going to have that song, like a rock. I'm as strong as I can be.
God.
It's good.
Oh my God. It's going to be the ultimate Budweiser commercial.
Yeah, ultimate. It's going to have a bunch of American Eagles and guys in plaid shirts.
God, dude, and cigars.
Cowboy hats, yeah.
From Cuba, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely I've had many Dark Nights of the Soul, but a recent one in the last, like, say, 3 years, where I remember when it happened. I was at the lake house. It was when Angelo, Ryan, and Marcus came, the alpha hippie guys. And Angelo's an intense dude. Like, that's why I hired him as my coach for 1.5 years, because I knew deep down, once he told this to me, I knew it was true. I knew it was going to cause a dark night of some sort. I didn't think of it in that way, but in hindsight, I can see it that way. but I also knew it was exactly what was right for me. So in a way, I didn't not like it. Like I actually liked it. Negation, translated. I enjoyed the Dark Knight because I knew that I could get through it. I just knew based on all the crazy shit I had done the past 3 years of like up leveling my whole life, also being with Rachel and like having a strong relationship in my life and a woman that I can come home to that creates a peaceful home. Like that was a big part of it too. But I remember we were sitting at the dining room table in the lake house and we're all sitting there, we're hitting bags or whatever. And I'm getting to know Angelo. And for anyone listening, at this stage of Angelo's life, he talked very deep and very slow. It was like an Italian mob boss energy, right? And so we're sitting there and he's like, so tell me about your business. And I'm like, oh, my business, it's called Highly Optimized, blah, blah, blah. And I tell him a little bit about it. I didn't know shit about what my business was at that level. This is like, God, probably 3-4 years ago. And, at that point, I didn't make any cannabis. I hadn't made any cannabis programs yet. Like we're talking way back, guys. All right. And I'm sitting there and I try to explain it. And he's like, that explanation kind of tells me you don't really know what your business is. And I'm like, shit. I'm like, well, I kind of do. Like I have a feeling, but I'm just kind of like traveling around right now. And he's like, yeah, it kind of seems like you're fucking off. And I was like, man, dude, who the fuck is this guy just hitting me with the facts? And when I thought about it, it wasn't like I was fucking off up until that moment. Then I realized in that moment, okay, I got to reel this in and be more intentional with I was going to a bunch of stuff, man. Like I was literally saying yes to so many things that at one point were directly in alignment because my lesson was I have to start learning to say yes to what my heart wants. But also it started to become a pattern of escapism where I was going to like Oregon all the time and Washington and Colorado and just like going all over the place. And as a result of that, I didn't really build my business because I was deep down nervous around what that would mean because I still had all these belief systems and stories around business. My dad had done business and failed at it. All these things that were working against me at that point. So I remember Angela was like, listen, man, you got to reel this in. If you want to have a business, you can do it, but you're going to have to reel this in a little bit. It does take dedication and like some hard work. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And in that moment, I realized, okay, like it was like a moment's notice. I was like, this is my next phase. So I was like, okay. So I ended up hiring Angelo. And for the next year and a half, he just helped me get my shit going. He helped me just undo these belief systems and these stories and things like that. He helped me really own my masculine energy. And nowadays, I'm so grateful for that. And that was kind of the thing is even when it happened, yeah, it stung a little bit, but I had already taken so much accountability at that point and then felt the sting, but also felt the world of freedom on the other side of it that I had actually got myself used to. Part of Enlifted helped me with this, being like, oh, I know what's on the other side of that sting. Another world of whole freedom and another whole world of empowerment. And so that was like the first thing I thought about when that happened. Literally at the table, we're like getting high, hanging out, talking, doing ceremony. And literally he just drops that and just hits me, gut checks me. Just like, dude, you're not running a business right now. You're just fucking around. And that's okay, but don't say you're trying to build a business right now because you're not. And that's what he was trying to call me forward on. And I was like, no, actually, you're right. You're right. But those 2 years of traveling were essential to me figuring out what I wanted to do. But it was in that moment that I realized, okay, I now get to become more intentional. So then from that point forward, I would pretty much only come to the get-togethers you guys put on. Because I found when I come down there, shit is awesome. I come back feeling like a totally different person. I get to learn and teach people amazing things. I get to be around people that are exactly my flavor of ice cream. And I get to be around other people building businesses. And when I was going to other get-togethers, a lot of it was just people that were kind of where I was at. Like, I don't know how to build a business, so let's just all hang out all the time. And again, like nothing bad about that, but it just came out of alignment for me. So that's what my recent Dark Night of the Soul looked like for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ryan, and to reflect that back to you, when you come to our events, when you come to hang with us, it fits in with us because you hustle, dude. We see you. We're like, this guy's working. This is, this, and we game recognized game, as someone likes to say, because we also hustle. We Enlifted has been in business, so it's actually been 6 years now. Wow, 6 years. It'll be 6 years actually in April 19th. And then Mark and I have been in business together. That'll be 10 years, April 19th total, I believe. So we have 11 years. Jeez, what am I talking about? Almost 11 years now. So, in this space that we're in, people come and they go all the time. Like you said, fail at business. Well, fail at business that's the norm. That's the standard. Staying in business, that's the outlier. That's the, it's like a lot of people can start business and not many people finish them, or stay with them. So, I think that's one of the things is that we recognize in each other is that, and people out there listening, it's like, if you start something, if you say, I'm going to start a business, really focus in on how you are going to take that step to complete it, to finish it, define what that looks like, define what success. It's okay to have an off ramp or if things legitimately go wrong, whatever, but make those definitions and stick with them, because this is one of Mark England's greatest, his greatest trait, really, I would say one of his greatest traits, he's got several great traits, is his stick-to-itiveness. He is as stubborn and sometimes to his detriment, he'll tell you that.
Every blessing has a curse.
Everybody, but this is what I'm doing. This is going to work. It is like like someone who's got like a screw loose. Like he is, I won't use the word he uses, but let's say functionally disabled person when it comes to like, how this thing is going to work, and he sticks with it. So, if you're out there and you're thinking about, starting something on your own and you want to start a business, number one, it's a lot of work. Yes. There's nothing around, there's no getting around it. Okay. You're going to work your ass off. Number two, well, you're going to work your ass off on something regardless. So make sure it's something you care about. Okay. Definitely. Number two. And then number three, stick with it and define what winning looks like. Like what are your mile markers for winning? Is it stay in business for 1 year, turn a profit year 2, turn double that profit year 3, and grow your base. You figure out what those metrics are and stick with it, and define them though for you. I did want to hit one more thing based on what you shared with your Dark Knight, is that in that the model that I use and what you presented to me fits in that model, is that Angelo in this way challenged your archetypical father. Your divine father, your archetypical father. So I look at the world as like, okay, we all have mothers and we all have fathers, right? I mean, so they do their best. They do their best. But I think in terms of like when shit goes bad or shit goes good in our lives, that I try to create this archetypical mother and archetypical father in my mind. And I say, what is the archetypical mother? Well, the archetypical mother is nurturing. And she's soothing and she's caring and she tells you the world's okay. You're going to be fine. And it's okay. Go have fun, Ryan. Go out there with your friends, play, and I'll be here to give you a big hug when you get back. Okay. And then you have the archetypical father, and that father is challenging, again, not a bully, but challenge. Yeah. No, Ryan, listen, it's time to, you said you're running a business. Let's do it.
I'm going to do it.
Let's do it. I want to encourage you, and I'm going to stay with you till you build that business, because I know you can do it. So I'm going to push you to do it. So it's like this archetypical father voice. So for me, that's what you were tuning into those, because part of the mother was saying, Ryan, get out, go explore the world, have fun with your friends. And then the father was like, okay, Mom, now it's my turn. Now it's time. Ryan, I want you to sit down, focus on this business. Show me what you can do. And now, to me, the people who are in the most balance and end up in the best places have that ability to have those two forces in this harmony in their lives.
100%, dude. I totally agree. And it's funny because, when my dad passed away, my dad was, he would gut check me, but not as hard as like someone like Angelo would. And that's why when Angelo said that, what happened was I felt that like, wow, that just hit me really good. Like I realized in that moment that I had been fearing, realizing and just accepting the like, hey, it's about time that it's about time this other phase is ending. That was essential, but I've kind of figured myself out. I've been around other groups now. Like, I never knew I was funny, dude. I never knew like so many things which is crazy. Like, I never knew so many different sides of me. I never knew how much I loved talking. I never knew how much I loved helping people. I never learned how funny I was or how much I could make people laugh. All of those things I learned in those first 2 years of traveling around. And then once I had learned that, I meet Angelo at this pivotal time where let's just say that a lot of the people I had been traveling with, they just wanted to keep traveling. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I was feeling something else wake up in me where I really wanted to like show the world what I had. because my whole life I had felt a little insecure, not the most confident. And so this was very new for me. And I didn't have a dad around to kind of teach me how to do that. So when Angelo told me that and it hit me, and then I was like, yeah, dude, what would I do about that? What's the first step? And he was like, let's talk about it. And then we built a small little plan together, literally just sitting at the dining room table. The next day I went out. One of the first things he told me was, hey, man, you're going to need a business partner. Like you're not someone who's techie. You're going to need to find someone. So I literally took action, went right into the sunroom, called Alex and was like, hey, can you help me run this business? And he was like, yes. So then I go back and I tell Angelo, I'm like, hey, I got a business partner now. He's like, that was fucking quick. And, in that he was like, okay, I see that you really do have what it takes. Like you're just lacking a little bit of the direction. So he's like, he told me when I went to San Clemente to visit him, he's like, I'm not going to be easy on you, dude. I'm going to be hard on you. And I was like, I need that. I need that masculine love right now. I've been too feminine for a little while in my life now, and I need to be more concrete because I could just feel like the balance wasn't there. And so over that year, I remember many times I was at his house, and there was one time, I won't mention the guy's name. It's not a bad story, but I just don't want to mention it just in case. But there was a quasi-famous person that I was looking to go spend time with. I did a podcast with him. He was my first big podcast on Highly Optimized, so you guys can put it together if you want to. But he was my first big podcast on Highly Optimized. I actually did it at the lake house, and halfway through the episode, the whole computer died. Luckily, he was super cool and understanding about it. But anyway, when we did that episode, he was like, dude, when you go out to Cali, hit me up, bro. Let's hang out. Let's go shoot some guns. I'll let you drive the McLaren. I was like, sick, dude. I was like, that's cool. So I remembered that. So I go out to Cali because Angela was living in San Clemente, and I messaged this guy. And I was like, hey, I'm in Cali for a week or whatever. Let me know if you want to hang out. Day like 4 or 5, I was leaving on day 7. I hadn't heard back. Angela asked me, hey, Brandon, how'd that message go? Did you send that message off? I'm like, yeah, man, I haven't heard back. I don't want to be annoying. He's like, brother, stop right there. I'm like, what? And he's like, if you're being annoying and someone doesn't tell you that, whose fucking fault is that? And I was like, another good masculine lesson. He's like, close all your loops. You keep reaching out to that person. They said they wanted to hang out with you, right? Cool. Make them good on their word. Make them have to say no if they don't want to. Don't let them have an indecision. Make them say yes or no. And until they tell you, hey, dude, you're being annoying, stop. You're not like, that's not my responsibility to know that. I'm just doing what we agreed upon. So I end up reaching out to this guy again, and he reaches out right away. He's like, dude, totally just didn't see your message before. Exactly what Angela was saying. It wasn't personal. And he's like, come by my house tomorrow. We go by, we have a great hangout. And after that, I learned something. I was like, yeah, like that was a big level up for me because I had been so like cautious around like, oh, I don't want to like, I had people pleasing tendencies and whatnot. I don't want to ruffle feathers. Angela was like, dude, you can't ruffle feathers if someone isn't telling you their feathers are being ruffled. That's their responsibility to do. That's not your responsibility. And so just so many lessons like that. I would literally stay with him for like a month at a time and just be completely enthralled in Angelo world. And, that helped me a lot between seeing the work ethic of you guys, between being with Angelo and seeing the work ethic he had and the work ethic I always had too, because to be honest, I think it's a cold places thing. Like what I've noticed is, Angelo's from Chicago. I'm from Boston. You guys are from Virginia. It gets fucking cold part of the year there. There's not really much else to do except keep yourself busy. So I feel like the areas of the world where I meet people that they have to go through a winter, they have a much higher work ethic because they're fucking cold. There's no time to fuck around, like straight up. So, I found it's an interesting correlation. It doesn't equal causation, but that was really big for me. For sure.
Well, you got to get while the getting's good because summer's only a couple of months, versus all year round in Southern California. You have to get on it. So, yeah, man, it's a very cool thing, man, to see your progress. But at the same time, like what you were able to do is you're able to surround yourself with people and operate at the same level as they are and know that I need to be around those types of people. Because like you said, if you hang around, peer group is such a real thing, man. Peer group, like they always say, if you want to know someone's destiny, you're like a child's destiny, look at their zip code where they grew up. I mean, unfortunately, that's true because like you can see what their peer group's going to be. Because guess what? Certain zip codes, those kids are all going to go to Yale. They just are, or an Ivy League school. And, it's like game recognized game, guilty as charged. So sue me, as someone likes to say. Guilty. There's built for tough. There's a lot of you got to find a good group, find your team, and then be okay with gardening that team. And that's, sometimes that can be hard. When I say gardening, you have to do some pruning from time to time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it can be uncomfortable the first time you do it, but by the time you do it like 4 or 5 times, you get pretty good at it. And you get very clear with people. This is what our relationship's going to be. This is what it's not going to be. And, we have found, we've been very, 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 very fortunate, Ryan, that we've built this really strong community of badasses. And it gets, with Enlifted, it just gets better and better every single year. There are people in Enlifted. I like this morning, we did an level 3 call, and this is our first proper level 3 certification. We have 10 people. Dude, the people in this class, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, everybody in here is a freaking the kind of person where like, I want my mom or my brother to work with you. Like I'd be privileged for them to work with you. Like you're a solid human being, and it ranges from Rod. I don't know if you know Rod Stewart, but that dude's just a solid individual. We got Lakin's in there, dude. Lakin is like, dude, if someone like, there's one of our coaches named Lakin. If you're like, hey, I need something done. Hey, I wonder if I should give it to Lakin to do. It's like, you don't even have to wonder. She's going to get it done. She just gets it done
better than most men can do. Like
times 9/11, dude.
Dude, when I was in Austin, right, doing Danny Morell's podcast, that's when they had a girls' weekend, and I think it was Lakin and Crystal came up here to hang out the house while I was gone. And it's so funny because Rachel, she has these dainty little wrists. We joke about her wrists all the time. She can barely lift anything. And so, I was like, oh, damn. I was like, how is she going to lift the water jugs when I'm out here? And so I asked her, I was like, I was calling. I was like, oh, babe, how are you going to lift the water jugs? And Lakin's like, I got that, right. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're with Lakin. She's a power lifter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So she's like, I'm playing all your roles. I'm getting the things high on the shelves. I'm fucking putting the water jugs on. He's a boss, man.
He's such a boss. And there's just so many cool people. Chelsea, who's like the greatest mom in the world. I mean, there's just, dude, there's, so awesome. I mean, I know. And then Ulrich is in there, of course, too. We love Ulrich to death. He's the man.
Oh, my God. Ulrich's so awesome, dude.
I know. So there's just, I could keep going on. And I apologize for not giving you a shout out if you're in L3 and listen to this podcast. I think the world of all of you. But just this surrounding yourself with great people. And it happens over time. So if you're out there listening and you're in some town where you're like, man, there's no cool people here. I don't know any good people. It's like, it happens. It's like that old Hemingway line. It's like gradually, then suddenly. So put yourself in those good rooms, and there'll be one person that's cool, and then there'll be 2, and then put yourself get yourself like Ryan did. Invest in yourself, bet on yourself. Like I love crypto and stocks and all that stuff as much as the next guy. But guess what? None of the best investment. This is what Jeffrey Gitomer told me 25 years ago. He's like, the best investment you can make in is yourself. You have to bet on yourself. Elon Musk did that, dude. Elon Musk sold PayPal for $250 million. He put $100 million into Tesla and 150 into what you call it, the rocket company.
Yeah, SpaceX.
SpaceX. And he's like, and I'll borrow money for rent. He's like, talk about betting on yourself with big ball energy, dude. You gotta bet on yourself, especially at that age, at a young age like that. Bet on yourself and get in the right rooms with the right people. And just start getting in your reps, man. Because if you do that, you will find yourself, again, gradually, then suddenly, you will gradually build these awesome communities. And then suddenly you will have 50 to 100 people in your phone. You could, if something really legit happened to you, you could call them. And you could be like, yo, what's up? Can I talk to you about this? And they would give you stellar advice, or even better, they'd coach you. They would help you unlock your wisdom. So anyways, there's my hype pitch for community, dude.
Dude, I totally agree. I say often, and I'll repeat it again because I want people to understand this to the nth degree. There is nothing that has moved me farther quicker than being in rooms with people I look up to. Once again, nothing has moved me farther than being in rooms of people I look up to. I'll tell you how all this started. In 2019, a company took over the dispensary I was working at, and I started to victimize myself. I didn't know that at the time, but I was like, why are they doing this? Well, all this, bitching and moaning. And that wasn't changing shit. So I was just victimizing myself. And at the same time, I could have left that job at any point. I could have left there at any point. but I was telling myself I couldn't. I was telling myself that they had done all these things, all this stuff. So in 2019, as this is happening around October, I start realizing, or actually it was probably September, I start realizing, you know what? I just feel this pull. I'd been really getting the Paul check. And I was like, you know what? I've been going to a lot of music festivals before that. So usually my friends, like my childhood friends and stuff, when we wanted to do something, it'd be like a music festival. And that was awesome. It was super fun. But I was like, you know, I want to go take a certification of some sort, you know? And I've been learning about it Czech a lot. And he had this sale, I forget what it was, but he had this sale on all of his courses. And so I looked it up, and HLC1 was within a price range that was scary for me. It was like $1,800, and I was making like $500 a week at that point. But like you said, I was like, screw it. If I have to eat ramen noodles for a month, I'm just going to do this because I feel like I want to do it. So I asked Rachel, I was like, do you want to come with me? Because I was still scared to travel alone. I was still playing small, you know, and she didn't want to go. I tried so hard to get all my friends to go. Eddie Madden had already taken HLC1. So I was like, all right, I was faced with the decision. Do I just go do what I know I want to do, or do I fall back into my smallness? And so I just hit buy now. I was literally standing at the register at the dispensary because I would always be doing research when there was no clients in there. And I just hit buy now. And I was like, screw it, I'll figure it out. And I flew out there. I rented a Mustang 5.0, and I just screwed around. And I brought a couple grams of cannabis out with me. That was stuff I grew. And when I show up in class, there's one table left, 2 seats. I walk in, I sit down. I don't know anyone there. And this guy sits down next to me. His name is Doug Pillar, which is fucking hilarious. Dougie P of all people. I didn't know who he was. There was so many people in that class. Grant Thomas was in that class. Yeah. Steve Panico was in that class. Doug Pillar was in that class. I mean, there was so many people that became my best fucking friends after that class. And I sit down, I start talking to him. We start connecting. We go through this 3 days. I'm having a full on like awakening of like, oh my God, this is amazing. California is so cool. I want to move out here, all this stuff. And then on the last day, Czech comes to class. Everyone's like fangirling, like, oh my God, it's Paul Czech. And I decide, because people were giving him gifts, and I was like, oh shit, I'll give him my cannabis. I've heard him talk about cannabis before. So I give him a couple grams of my cannabis. We take a picture together, and I leave. And I have a great adventure. I come back home, you know, and then after that, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go to MJ BizCon. I'm going to go out there and find my own investors and open my own dispensaries. Now I had some motivation. I had some, my object was in motion now. I proved to myself I can do something that's uncomfortable, even though I was doing cold plunges and all the other stuff, but a different type of uncomfortability. So I go out there, you know, that doesn't work out the way I thought it was going to, but it's okay. It worked out perfectly. I end up, like I said before, meeting Mark and I end up getting into Enlifted, which then changed up. And once again, I had like $2,000 left in my name, bought the course. And because of that, I started hanging out through Zoom screens with other people. At this time also, I had gone through my I'm going to quit cannabis for 3 months phase. And so the pattern me and some of my friends who worked at the dispensary had was we'd all meet up at my mom's house after and just, you know, hang out, smoke, watch funny stuff, whatever. Around that time, I was like, I don't want to do that. So I just started coming home, going right to my room. My friends would still come over and hang out in the living room because my family's house has been a hangout house for my whole life. And I would go upstairs, and I just knew I wanted to create my own business, but I had no idea what I wanted to do it around. So I just was like, all right, what businesses are out there that I can be my own boss? So I would watch hours of drop shipping videos, wholesaling real estate, retail arbitrage, all these different things. And none of them felt like what I wanted, but I was showing God that I was willing to pray, aka no, I want something better, and move my feet. And so then I get through Enlifted, I go to the lake house, everything I already explained. December of 2020, a year later, Eddie Madden's like, yo, you want to go do Zen in the Garden out at Czech's house? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do, man. The whole world shut down. It'll be awesome. I go out there. Guess who I meet there? Shervin Jafaria, founder of Symbiotica. Kyle Kingsbury's hanging out. These like famous people to me, including Czech. And I'm just sitting there. There's like 30 other people there, and it's just us. And we're hanging out, ripping bags with Czech. And I'm like, dude, what? And then I bring Paul more of my cannabis, and that's when he's like, dude, I remember you from that class. So if I had never gone to that class, I wouldn't be here right now. If I had never chose to overwhelm myself with courage to fucking say buy now and go to HLC1 because my heart wanted it, I wouldn't be on this fucking screen with you, Adam Chin, right? So like, this is how this happens. And for any of you guys out there, Like Adam and I are saying, there's a reason why I host a free workshop every once in a while. There's a reason why Enlifted hosts free workshops every once in a while. If you don't have the money right now, like if you're literally like, dude, I'm eating ramen noodles right now, I don't have any ability, just do free shit. Look up free webinars and go start hanging out in those places. Go watch YouTube videos. Just show God, show Great Spirit that you're willing to try something new and watch for the magic to ensue. I had no fucking idea any of this was going to happen, but hopefully I can be an example. I'm nothing special. I'm no more special than anyone else. And I did it. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. All right. Like straight
Well,
up.
first of all, Ryan, I disagree. You are very special as far as I'm concerned. There's only one Ryan Sprague. Everyone knows that.
Nice game.
Yeah, no, but your message is completely on point because you have to. What does Stephen Pressfield say in the War of Art? He says that inspiration is real. It usually finds you at midnight sitting behind the keyboard of your computer writing away or something. That's a paraphrase of the quote, but it's something like that, right? It's like you have to actually put into the work. And there's this thing like what we're talking about, saying yes and showing up even though you're not ready yet, quote unquote ready. That's in a lot of ways another one of the great lessons that Mark has shown me. And I've dabbled in this world. I've done a lot of it myself. Is this concept of messy action. So we work as a team because he's Mr. Messy Action and I'm Mr. Refinement. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but you can play this in your own mind, in your own soul. You can say, listen, it's time, even though I'm a very orderly person and I don't want to necessarily say yes right now, but just trust me. It's like part of you need to be that part of you that's like messy action. Go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you're not ready, but just go. And then do it. 80% of what you think is good enough. That's fine. Refine on that when you get back home or when you process it. And then the next time go 90. And then the next time go 95 and then get to the 100 eventually. And dude, it's like Steve Jobs said, like great artists ship. They have to ship their product. How many people have you met out there that's like, oh man, I'm working on it. Yeah, it's not ready. It's one day it'll be out there, and it's like never out there. Yeah, it's just
opus.
Yeah, exactly. No, you got to get out there, especially now with social media. You can get a lot of like feedback pretty quickly from people by posting and going to YouTube and stuff like that. So it is important to take action, and it's really cool, man. I'm so glad we had this thing scheduled for today because this morning I had this HVAC guy show up at my place to do my annual inspection. So this is like, if you have a heat pump in your home, you have to have somebody come out because those things crash during the summer. It sucks, right? Yeah. So anyway, this guy comes out and he looks at it. And he was like really professional. He knew what he was talking about. He was really thorough and he's really friendly. And I was like, cool. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, great. Everything's checking out. Looks good. And I'm like, excellent, dude. So how long have you been doing this? And he's like, well, about a year officially. And then, but I've studied this for a while. And I'm like, well, you're young, man. What are you, like 30? He goes, I'm 18. And I go, what? He's like, yeah, I have to grow my beard out so people take me seriously. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, I'm 18. He's like, I studied this when I was in like trade. Like, I guess he took one of those, like, what do they call it? Like
OTEC or whatever.
Yeah. In high school. And he learned about all this, like how, like, all the engineering behind heat pumps worked and all this stuff. And he's like, screw it. I'm not going to go to school and waste a bunch of money. I'm just going to go into HVAC. And dude, he already bought a house. He's 18. He bought a house out somewhere in rural Virginia, dude. And dude, he was so freaking like knowledgeable about what he was doing. He was so personable. He was like a people person, and I talked this guy up the whole time. I was like, bro, you're 18, dude. You're so far ahead of the game. And why I bring this up is because, man, you could just do shit, man. You could just say yes. It doesn't have to be complicated or like fancy or glamorous. For him, it was just being an HVAC dude and just like having his own house and saying that's being cool, because it is a cool thing, dude. He's 18. He's got his own house. I mean,
that's fucking cool, dude. That's fucking really cool.
It's really cool. And he could do this forever if he wanted to. He could make tons of money. He could open his own business one day. It doesn't have to be like the great, like, Andrew Tate, Bugattis. You can literally just live a good, solid life, man. But he got it from saying yes and showing up. So I was just really inspired by this kid this morning. I wanted to give him a little shout out here. His name was Maddox, by the way. If you have
to, Maddox. Game recognized game. Is he Mennonite or something? I feel like that's like an Amish or Mennonite name.
I didn't ask him. That was the second follow-up question. Are you Mennonite by chance?
Ish. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you get to work on air conditioners, but do you actually have one? Can you use it in the home? Did you? Is your repair vehicle a horse and buggy? Is there shit in my front yard right now?
Is your refrigerator running?
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit, bro. Well, dude, this has been amazing, bro. I keep rocking and rolling with you. I got to get a haircut in a little while. I'm getting them all cut, actually, because I know what your next joke was going to be. But,
okay, gotcha.
But, dude, this has been amazing, bro. Thank you so much for being not only on the podcast again, but also for being the first episode back on the Highly Optimized podcast. It's a big phase for me. And, you know, I hope that a lot of what we shared in this episode is why I'm getting back here, guys, because this, I really feel, is what's going to help people the most. Psychedelics are an essential part, right, for those that like to do them, but they are not the whole puzzle. And this is really what the puzzle looks like. And a lot of times it is messy. A lot of times it's coloring outside of the lines. But you know what? Like Mark taught me, the only thing that separates an amateur from a professional is reps. And that's the thing with people like Elon Musk. You know, my trainer the other day was like, oh, you're like that guy, he's failed a bunch. I'm like, no, he's not afraid to fail to get success. That's the difference. And that's what makes a truly successful person. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. I don't have any skin in the game with Elon Musk, but you got to give credit where credit's due. The dude has kept showing up. Look at someone like fucking Trump, for instance, right? Again, I don't give a shit about presidents or fucking any of that stuff. But when you see some of those got put in jail, still come back, I mean, like, that's hodling on a different level. That's a lot more than just holding Bitcoin for a while, you know? That's a hodl, dude, if I've ever seen one. So thank you, man, for coming on, bro. I have one last question. You down for me to ask it?
Go for it.
Let's say someone listens to this episode and they want to know how to reach their own hero's journey and how to highly optimize their life. What is the one piece of advice you would share to them to allow them to reach that conclusion?
I like that question. I'm thinking about it. It centers around the concept of agency. You are the author of your story. Do not let the world author your story. Do not let people that have even good intentions, like some family members or friends, try to author your story. You ultimately have to write your story. Remember that. Yeah. And with great power comes great responsibility. So enjoy that journey, man. Enjoy it.
Not all heroes wear capes, as a famous man once said. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so pumped to be back at the Highly Optimized podcast. Please go check out the older episodes, especially my first one. Like, go actually see the physical evidence of where I started, how anxious I was, how fucking fast I talked. Go explore that and realize that if I can do it, like I said at the end here, anyone can do it. Stop buying into your smallness. Like Adam said, stop letting other people architect your stories, because it's up to you and you alone. And that is what actually empowers you. I know it can feel stingy, but on the other side of that is a world of freedom. So make sure you go give the show a 5-star review. If you enjoyed this episode, we'll keep them coming. And may the source be with each of you. Peace.